Welcome to the Sisters Like Us podcast. I'm Laken.
And I'm Allie, and we're here to share our perspectives as sisters from two different generations.
So grab a glass of wine
Or a bottle.
and let's dive in.
Cheers! Cheers! Yay! Welcome to episode 21 of the Sisters Like Us podcast.
I feel like every time we're like, oh my gosh.
Every number, we are shocked that we're at that number. We have a special guest with us this week. It is our future sister-in-law, Lindsey.
Hello.
So excited. We have definitely mentioned her on the podcast before, but just to quickly recap, she is engaged to our stepbrother, Andrew. They are getting married next summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been talking about having her on here because sisters, but also we thought it would be fun to really focus on the topic of weddings, because as somebody who I have planned a wedding, you are currently planning a wedding, and
Yes.
Allie works in weddings.
Yes.
We thought that's a perfect topic for us to talk about.
Definitely.
But before that, I'm jumping ahead a little bit ahead. Let's get to know you a little bit, and you tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and how you met our stepbrother.
Yeah. So I actually grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and then I went to the University of Iowa, where I met their brother Andrew. We met when we were freshmen in college.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we just hit 7 years together, and then we just got engaged this past May, getting married next summer. Yeah, but we also live in Chicago, super close to both of them, so.
Yeah, I think we mentioned
fun.
7 years.
Yeah, 7
Yeah.
years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think we mentioned before that we live in this little bubble of like, it's like a 2-mile radius, and it's like our parents, us, me, Allie, Lindsey, and Andrew, and our brother Parker. We all live in this like 2-mile bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all got married in Italy. I feel like we have to.
Engaged.
Oh, engaged. Sorry, that's what I meant. Not, yeah, sorry. Allie's the one over here that wants to get married in Italy. Engaged in Italy. It was the beginning of your trip.
Yeah, it was the first full day we were there. So we were in Venice. I kind of had an inkling that it was
Yeah, you
I knew.
You knew.
I mean, he planned a gondola ride all by himself.
It was the only thing he planned.
This day, what time is the best for pictures? And I was like, okay, noted. But yeah, it was perfect.
Boys try to plan surprises, and they're just not that good at it.
You know, I do love surprises, but I'm glad for that. Like, I knew it was happening.
That's fair.
One of the first questions we ask couples when we have like our initial call with them is like how they met and how they proposed.
Mhm.
And 95% of the time, yeah, the girl like had an inkling.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Or like knew it was happening that day.
What's funny is I actually didn't, and this episode is not about me at all, but I actually did not until he slipped up about a week before. So Sam, my husband, had been planning our engagement for months because our parents were flying to New York. So he'd been planning it for months. And I had no suspicion on the date or what was happening at all. And then he messed up and let one little thing slip that made
What did
me
he
very
say?
suspicious. So we were both performing in a show called Broadway Goes Acapella. And my mom was flying in for the show because I was performing. And I didn't think anything of it because I was performing. So mom was coming to see me. Like, that wasn't weird to me, right? And so we were trying to plan for brunch the day after the show. And my mom and I actually aren't big mimosa people. Of course, the irony is these two have mimosas today. And we wanted to find a brunch that had like there used to be one place in New York that I loved that was an bottomless sangria brunch, and it closed. And so I was like, we have to find a brunch place that does something bottomless besides mimosas, you know, because me and my mom don't really drink mimosas. And Sam goes, well, my mom will probably just have a Bloody Mary. And I was like, why is your mom gonna be at this brunch? You never heard this story?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, and I was like, why is your mom gonna be there? And he tried to play it off, and I actually just like let it go because I didn't want him to feel bad. So I was like, no, I'm talking about the brunch in New York. And he was like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, he tried to play it off, right? And so I just let it go. But then of course now I'm really suspicious. So everything leading up to it at that point, I was questioning everything. Lucky for him, the day of, I actually completely forgot because we were in a show. And so the whole week I was suspicious, but the day of, I let it go. And I just was focused on the show. I wasn't even thinking about it until it was happening. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I'd been suspicious about this all week. Anyway, but yeah, I feel like most of the time the girl has a little bit of an inkling and like a heterosexual proposal.
Yeah.
So it is.
And we always ask those questions because it gives us like a chance to like get to know them a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, so you got engaged last summer, but you're not getting married till next summer, so a
Yes.
little bit of a long engagement.
Yes. And that was mostly because I definitely wanted a summer wedding,
Yeah.
and us getting engaged in May. To have the wedding the next summer was going to be a lot, and so many babies coming into the world, so I just knew we were going to be so busy. So it just worked out that way, and I'm happy about it, and I feel like now we're like really getting into the planning of everything, so it'll be nice because we're getting all the planning out in front right now, and then hopefully by the time it gets closer we can kind of like relax a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like part of the hard part is the timing, right? Of like when the season you want to get married and the season you get engaged. What do you typically tell people in terms of like how long it takes to plan a wedding?
I feel like it kind of depends, right? Because like where I'm working now, like I don't get introduced to my client until like they've already picked their wedding date. So like I don't really help them like
Oh, from the beginning.
but I would say like it typically ranges anywhere from like 10 months to like a year and a half.
10 months.
Like I just had a couple for November of 25 like a few weeks ago that I talked to, but then I also had I just got a couple for September of this year.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
So, and last year I did a New Year's Eve wedding in like 4 months and did another wedding in like 3.
Oh
So
my gosh.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
I just
So,
don't know how
to answer
people
your
do
question,
that.
it's all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends kind of on like where you're getting married and the season you're getting married, because obviously summer in Chicago is super popular. And
Yeah.
so 1 year out, your options were probably going to be super limited.
Totally.
I say, the most popular wedding months are August and September.
Here.
Because August and September are the 2 months out of the whole year that are less likely to rain than any other month.
Yeah, but rain's good luck on your wedding day.
It is, and I actually would prefer rain on my wedding day because the pictures are better and it's like romantic.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just a pain.
It rained a lot at my sister's wedding.
Yeah.
But so her ceremony was outside, and it completely stopped right before she walked down the aisle. It was like a movie. And then right after they got done with the ceremony, it started pouring again.
That
That is a movie.
Crazy.
wow.
So, but was everybody else wet besides her?
Yeah, I wasn't because I was still
The
in
last
the bridal
one,
suite.
right.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, I love that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I do think a longer engagement, I mean, we ended up having a longer engagement, not by choice, because COVID
Yes.
was like, here, please postpone your wedding by a year. But it is nice not to have to rush and to be able to kind of take your time. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you're overwhelmed with the wedding planning process?
Not at this point. Like,
Okay.
I do feel like when we get closer and closer, I'm gonna start having like anxiety. I had my first like wedding nightmare.
Oh
No.
It was just that like for some reason I waited so long to get ready, and then I was doing my own hair and makeup.
Oh.
Which this is so unrealistic because
Right.
I'm gonna have someone do
Right.
my hair and makeup, but like I kept messing it up, and then like Andrew came in the room and he's like, "What's going on? Like, is this still happening?"
Wait, no.
Is this still happening?
So I guess it's starting to become more realistic, but I still feel like I have so much time that I like don't need to stress or worry yet.
Yeah.
You definitely don't need to stress or worry
Yeah.
ever. Like, hopefully it will just
True.
feel...
Just the overthinking in me will.
Yeah, but the wedding dreams are real.
Yeah.
Like, those happen,
Yeah.
for sure. Obviously, a date and a venue is set. Anything else that you guys have finalized yet?
We have chosen our caterer,
Okay.
so we're kind of working on the menu right now.
So fun.
But other than that, nothing really else. We have our DJ.
Okay.
So we think like the natural next step is to get a photographer. We'll do some engagement pictures this spring around the city. So that'll be cool. It's exciting.
Yeah.
That was like I think our next one. We did the venue and then we did the photographer because that was all we had when the pandemic hit, and all we had to postpone was the venue and the photographer, and not that we hadn't booked anything else. So
Yeah, we have like an order of like what we typically recommend for booking, and obviously the venue, but I work at a venue, so yeah, it's always DJ, photographer, and then usually like hair and makeup, and then surprisingly like rehearsal dinner is usually pretty far up there, and like what you should get booked early, especially here, because it's just like more difficult to book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the what that situation looks like. If you're trying to book a restaurant for however many people on a Friday night, that's going to be yeah. Hair and makeup, I guess, makes sense because it's those vendors where there's only one.
And
they can only do one.
Secure them for that date.
Right.
And there's only so many Saturdays in the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, 100%.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, do you have a wedding planner, or are you just enlisting the help of Allie for wedding stuff?
Basically enlisting the
Yeah.
help of Allie.
I
She's been super helpful.
Yeah, I just feel like with the pricing of hiring a wedding planner these days, especially if you were gonna do like full service or even partial service, like it's just not worth it because like you could just text me and be like, hey, and I'm like, okay, here's what I like would say. But yeah, I've been helping a little bit. We like got lunch like recently and we just kind of talked about photographers and like from my job I just have like so many recs and like so many people that I've worked with that I know that like you would work well with.
I think part of it too, two things that come to mind. One is the timeline. I feel like if you have a long timeline, you don't necessarily need somebody who's holding your hand and really helping you every step of the way like a wedding planner would. And then also you live here. I felt like we didn't ultimately get a wedding planner, but I felt like having somebody, if I was planning a wedding, well, I mean, I did plan a wedding in a different city. If I did that again and I was on a time crunch, I can see the value of a wedding planner if you're planning where you don't actually live. But because you live here and you have a long timeline, I feel like it is, and you have a Allie, but
we did think about getting like a partial planner.
Yeah.
So I did have a meeting with someone, and as I was talking to her, I was kind of just like, these are kind of things that I want to do.
Right, and
like,
you have
we
the
have
time.
so much time.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have good recommendations, so like everything else, like I kind of want to be involved in the planning process.
Hence the birth of what I'm starting to do kind of as a side gig is wedding coaching, which we developed this idea like over
I told you I had a wedding coach.
Oh, it was you that said that.
Yes. Okay, also shameless plug for Allie's new business venture.
Yes.
I told you this because I'm going to rewind a little bit. I got engaged the fall of 2019. And to kind of piggyback on Lindsay's comments about the seasons, I actually told my husband, well, we had a conversation that we wanted a spring wedding. And I said, I really would like 18 months to plan the wedding. That is, for spring in Texas, we need that much time to book the venue we would want to book. And so we need to be engaged. Basically, like, mapped out our timeline. If you know me, that shouldn't surprise you at all. But based on our ages, we were like, we probably should be engaged by fall of 19. And so that's when he proposed. And so our original wedding date was the spring of 2021. And people absolutely got married at that point, and you could have safely done it. For us, one of the biggest priorities for the wedding, which that's a topic we could talk about, how wedding planning is just essentially prioritizing, but it was the people. We wanted not to feel like we had to limit the guests, and we wanted to have as many people that we loved there as possible. Well, during the middle of a pandemic, that was very tough. So we ultimately made the decision to postpone our wedding almost a whole calendar year to spring of 2022. So we reached this point where I basically stopped planning. I was like, okay, we have the key things. We had the venue, the photographer, the caterer, the cake, hair and makeup. And I was like, okay, at this point, I can take a break. Getting back into it, I just did not have the motivation. I didn't have the oomph that I needed to like get back into the actual planning and knowing what was going to be the most important. Like I had the key things. What was next? What did I need to do next? And so a friend referred me to a wedding coach, and we basically just had a monthly call, and she was like, okay, here's what's next. And she would give me homework and say, these are the things you need to do next. You need to do, and some of it was you or your husband needs to do this. So some of it I gave off to Sam, but it was like, okay, you need to do hotel blocks. Okay, you need to do rehearsal dinner. Okay, you need it. Like it was just homework. And it was so nice because like you said, Lindsay, I wanted to do some of that stuff. Like I wanted to do the research and look into it, but I needed the guidance and the oomph to do that. And so yes, I hired a wedding coach for almost a whole calendar year before our wedding.
Yeah, and I just hadn't heard of it like in Chicago, like as like being in the industry for a while now, like I just didn't know of anyone who was doing that. And I was like, wow, that's that's huge because people are spending like another 10 grand
Yeah.
to essentially not have any involvement in their planning their wedding.
Right.
And I'm like, wouldn't it be so nice if, they just had someone to like keep them on track?
Yep.
And then, if they wanted help with hotel blocks or wanted help with those venue searches, that's just like an extra charge. Like you can pay extra for that.
But instead of being like, hey, like a wedding planner saying, hey, here are 3 photographers you can pick from, it's, hey, this month you need to book a photographer, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Here are my recs. You don't have to go with them, but here's some recommendations.
and you always have recommendations from your venue, and you know, there's all kinds of resources for that stuff. But it's like, I wanted more than just like, here's pick 3.
Yeah.
I wanted to be more involved in that,
Right.
but I needed somebody to be like, do this.
Yes.
So anyway, going back to what I briefly touched on, which is that it feels like wedding planning is a lot of prioritizing. Like, what are your priorities?
Yeah, so like what I kind of discovered this year after, you're starting to plan your wedding, and the more I've learned through my job and just people being kind of like, they get in certain areas where like, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know how much I really should be spending on a DJ. Like, is this DJ that's charging $5 grand and this DJ that's charging 2 like pretty much the same thing? And like, it pretty much is. So it's kind of figuring out like, okay, I've been telling couples recently, like, take all of the vendors, right? Like everything from DJ to photo to late night snack to like everything, and kind of put it in a list and then order it from what's most important to you. Is it like the venue and the guest experience? Like, is that the most important thing? Maybe you're going to splurge a little bit more on your venue then.
Yeah.
Is capturing those photos so important to you? Maybe I'm going to splurge and spend, closer to 10 grand on photos, which is crazy, but like that's how much it costs in Chicago, like some photographers.
That's a whole nother topic. I can't even fathom your budget compared to mine in South Texas. Like, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, we can talk to you about like what I've seen like for Chicago wedding pricing.
Yeah.
But and then that just is kind of a guideline. Like, there's budgeting spreadsheets, there's all these things that you could do, but people still are kind of like, I don't know how much I should be spending on this.
Definitely.
And it's like, if you're hesitating to spend a certain amount, like maybe that's just not that important to you. And like, that's why I always say, like, for a vendor like videography, you can book that typically super late because they usually are teams of videographers, not one.
That's what we did.
It's expensive. So it's like, you get to kind of end of the process, you're like, is this worth it for me? Like, this was not a huge priority, but, we have a little bit of extra money to spend, then you spend it.
And obviously you have that conversation with your future spouse.
Right.
And what is important to them. And so we were both on the same page that the number of people being there was very important to us.
Yeah.
Something that was not important to me that my husband fully supported was flowers. I just think wedding flowers are so overpriced. And to me, it just wasn't important. And I was like, I don't want to spend that much money on something that is literally going to die.
Yeah. And so that's where you learn talking to other people, like everyone does have different priorities.
Yes.
Because like for me, like obviously I'm not getting married, but you can touch on this too. Like flowers
is
like you? Probably one of the most important things that would be for me.
Yeah, I would say for us it is higher on the priority list because our venue is very industrial. It's very like a blank slate. So we need something to really spruce it up. Like decorate. So I feel like flowers and candles are going to be the way that we're going to do that. So I feel like it is a little higher on the priority list.
What else is on your priority list?
Definitely photographer, videographer. The venue was high on the priority list, making sure that it could be big enough to have the amount of guests that we're having. We are having like around 130 people, so I feel like that's not like huge, but it's pretty big.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we have a venue that can have everyone and have like extra space.
Does not feel cramped.
I have been at weddings that felt a little cramped.
Yeah.
So just taking like experiences from weddings we've been to and trying to figure out like what we want and what we don't want.
And so the venue that they chose is a venue that I haven't actually worked at personally for weddings, but I planned a gala in my sorority. If anyone was ever in Alpha Phi Red Dress Gala, you know. I probably already talked about it before.
You have.
But I did it at this venue that Andrew and Lindsey are getting married, so it's kind of like, it's definitely not full circle, it's not the way to think of it, but it will be fun to like
be back there
and just like, so.
But for some people, you know, it's food. And for some people, it's the open bar and the caliber of that open bar.
Yeah, so like to go with food and bar, like I told Lindsey and Andrew when they came to see my venue, if you prioritize food and cocktails, then you should get married where I work because our food is amazing, and like you don't really get that with wedding food very often. Like it's always like, okay, this is good, it like satisfied my hunger, but like this food is good. Like I have them make me stuff to go when I leave. And our cocktails are just amazing because it's like a full bar with a full bar staff and not like a 19-year-old who got like a gig on the weekend. Like it's like full bartenders.
Which is the opposite of what my wedding was, which we had a barbecue buffet, which was delicious because it was barbecue.
And if you're going to do a buffet, like you should do it something like that. Like not just like masticholi and Caesar salad. Like literally, no offense if you did that. Love me a good masticholi. But do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like, if you guys were going to do a buffet type thing, you guys were going to do like tacos and like Mexican food.
Yeah,
like,
we did consider that.
That would have been so fun.
Yeah, food wasn't like the top priority for us, but we ended up like, we just did our tasting for the wedding and the food was so good.
Are there any aspects of like planning the wedding that you're feeling like you aren't as excited about, or you're not, like the steps?
That's a good question. I guess just when I think about like the full setup of everything, I get a little overwhelmed, like table settings and like just how everything's gonna look like that. Like I can visualize it, but when I try to like really think about all the planning that has to go behind that, I get a little overwhelmed.
Those types of things are always those last minute details that people forget about. Like we have this final meeting and I'm like, okay, like have you made your table numbers, have you done like, and they're like, oh crap, like I didn't even think about that. So it's like those little, like the seating chart, the table numbers, the place cards,
seating chart,
but then how is my table number going to be held, like with what stand, and you know there's all those little things.
Does your venue help at all with that, or is it really truly a blank slate?
They do help. When we toured the venue, they gave us this whole book of like different like layouts that all the couples that got married there used. So like I guess we'll start working with them to figure out the layout based on like how many tables we're gonna have and like where we want the dance floor, but like it's very customizable. Like we can do whatever we want with it basically.
I actually loved putting together the seating chart. Like I
really
I don't know, I had fun like figuring out who gets to sit with who, and like Allie's giving me this look like
it takes me back to when I was doing the seating chart for this gala that I planned, which, you know, figuring out what sorority sisters to put with other sorority sisters is
no, that's different than like your best friends and family and figuring out who goes with who.
No, 100%.
I feel like the one piece of wedding planning we actually haven't touched on is like attire. Have you thought anything about that?
I mean, we're not gonna do like black tie, but definitely formal.
And dress shopping?
Yes, we'll start looking at some dresses this spring. So I'm really excited for that. That'll be really fun.
Yeah. Also used to be a bridal stylist, which if you listen,
the job episode, we talked about how Allie worked at a bridal shop.
I know they call me the in-house bridal stylist at work because there's so many questions revolving it. Like there's so many things people don't know. It's a complicated situation. Like the whole industry, the wedding dress industry is like a whole separate
I feel like I have a good picture in my head of like a dress that I would like, but like I've never tried anything else, so like you never know, and I also don't know like what stores to go to.
That's why you have Allie.
Yes, exactly.
But I also feel like that's one of those categories that people can really prioritize in terms of cost. Yeah. I mean, I have a good friend who had like 3 different pairs of wedding day shoes because that was what was important to her. Meanwhile, I wore sneakers that I got at Nordstrom Rack.
Oh, I would highly recommend sneakers.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Oh, just have them with you there, and so you can change into them.
Yeah, I mean, I wore them from the beginning because I just knew. I mean, I got married on grass, and so that was part of it too. Is that I knew I didn't want to have to deal with the grass, but then also I was like, I don't have to change shoes. Like
my shoes were so uncomfortable. I remember, and like,
what kind of shoes did you wear?
I had heels on, but they were like the ones that were like three straps.
Were they wedges?
No, it was more of like a square. It was like half of a square heel. It was weird.
Did you not sink into the grass?
No, I did a little bit. That's
why I told everyone to wear wedges or flats. You did not listen.
Yeah, obviously not. but I remember I took my shoes off and then Parker dropped a beer bottle and I stepped in glass. And I was like, okay, guys. And then I tried to go to the bar and get a tequila shot and they said no. And I was like,
yeah, but they didn't. That was like a venue policy that we couldn't serve
you
shots.
can't do it anywhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
The
Anyways.
shoes I wore to your wedding were perfect. Like,
Oh.
it was like a big square heel. And since then, because I could wear them all night, I've worn them to every single wedding.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So maybe I'll
glad
just get
that's
the
the
same
case.
pair in white for the wedding.
Yeah, do that. Oh my gosh.
I love it.
That's amazing. I'm so glad I wore sneakers and just wore them the whole night and it was perfect.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you had a poor experience with your shoes and then Parker breaking glass. And
It's okay.
all in all though, our wedding was great.
Yeah, we had a great time.
We had a great
I didn't
time.
want it to end and then it ended and I was like, oh.
And then we even extended the DJ an hour past like what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that that's an option because I talked to both our DJ and our caterer about that because right now we're like kind of ending the wedding at 11, but we have the venue until 1:30 and obviously that includes like cleanup time. But I'm like, if the party's going, I'm not gonna want it to end. So
Oh, yeah.
both of them said that like we could tell them on the spot that we want to just
Yeah.
extend it an hour.
I definitely wish it had gone on longer, but then I did get to make it to the after party because it ended when it ended and I didn't think I was going to, which worked out because the late night snack didn't make it to the actual wedding. It didn't make it to the after party, which brings me to the topic that something is gonna go wrong. Like things will go wrong, and when someone asks about our wedding, there were a handful of things. Did they make or break the day? No, not at all. But I like to share them in case somebody wants to make sure that they don't happen at their wedding. So there were three main things that I always think of when I'm like, what went wrong on our wedding day? The one I just referenced is that I put my husband in charge of the late night snacks, which we got delivered from Whataburger, which if you are from Texas or you've been to Texas, you know. He handled all of it except giving the Whataburger people his cell phone instead of the day of coordinator's cell phone. So when they got to the venue, they could not figure out where to go or what to do to deliver said Whataburger, and they were calling his phone, which was God knows where, and could not figure it out. So the Whataburger did end up making it to the after party. It was supposed to be there for the wedding. So instead of every wedding guest getting one, I think the guys, like the groomsmen at the after party, had like 4 apiece.
Yeah.
Number 2 was we also had kind of a venue that was a little bit of a blank slate. We had our venue do some extra stuff, but we obviously had catering come in, and the catering we did was barbecue, and they didn't have a good vegan option. So we had a vegan caterer bring in vegan meals.
I do remember that.
And we also had the vegan caterer do appetizers because it was like, I don't want to pay for like a third catering thing for appetizers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have the vegan catering do the apps and the vegan.
Yeah.
And people were very confused apparently whether the appetizers were just for the vegan people who checked off vegan.
Yeah, I remember being like, because I remember even someone asked me, they were like,
can I eat this?
And I'm like, no, you could totally eat it. I just think it's vegan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was because it was from the same caterer, but it was for everybody. And finally, one of the things, if I'm going to list my 3 favorite things from the wedding, one of them was getting to eat dinner alone with my husband.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend. Someone finally came and asked us, are the appetizers that came from the vegan caterer just for people who check vegan, or are they for everybody? And I was like, no, they're for everybody. The last thing was very specific to our wedding and both our venue, and that is that we had customized kippah, which are the yarmulkes that guys wear during weddings, and we had ones that on the inside said like Sam and Laken's wedding with our date, and they were down by the ceremony space. And all of the people who were part of our processional, which was every grandparent and every sibling and every groomsman, didn't get one, and including my husband. And so any member of our immediate family or bridal party who was Jewish would have traditionally worn one during the ceremony, including my husband, and they did not get access to one. We are halfway through the ceremony and Sam looks at me and goes, I don't have a kippah on. He ends up getting it from the rabbi. So the first half of the ceremony, the rabbi has one on and Sam doesn't. Halfway through the ceremony, Sam has one and the rabbi doesn't.
I didn't even notice that.
I know. Most people didn't.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things, I mean, again, in Texas, I don't know how many Jewish weddings they're doing at this venue, but I told the coordinator at the venue, I was like, for future reference, make sure you have a stack of them up here where the processional is starting, because these people need also access to them. But
Yeah.
those are the random things that went wrong at our wedding.
But at least like the things that went wrong, like no one really
Nope.
knew
There's
about,
also
no one really
solutions
noticed.
for all of those things.
Yeah.
Like signage and
Yes.
having a different phone number.
Yeah, they could have been fixed. It just,
Yeah.
for people in the future.
But yeah, things
Hopefully.
are going to
Yes.
go wrong. So as long as it's nothing major.
Yes.
I'll make sure of it.
Yeah.
I'll handle anything that needs to be handled.
I hope you're also enjoying the day.
Yes,
I will.
definitely.
Yeah.
You won't be working.
I feel like we've kind of captured like the wedding. Let's talk a little bit about like the other events. Any thoughts on other events that surround the wedding? Bachelorette party, bridal shower, etc.
I haven't thought about like bridal shower or anything like that.
Okay.
But
I mean, I didn't have one, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I don't know. But most of your female family members all live in the same place, so maybe it'll be different for you.
Yeah, exactly. And my aunts were like really excited to plan my sister's bridal shower.
So you probably will have
my
one.
aunts will take over that as well. But for bachelorette party, I was thinking about Nashville.
Ooh.
I've never been there before, so I mean,
Nasty
what better?
Nashville.
You went for your
Let's
20.
get nasty.
Please don't use that hashtag.
No.
Okay,
First of all,
thanks.
there's no hashtags aren't a thing anymore.
Even for weddings.
No, not really. I mean,
Sad.
occasionally. Because again, like, who's posting a picture like
With a hashtag. That's true. That's true.
I went to Nashville for my 21st.
Okay. I've only been once, and it was for a conference, and I was like at the conference hotel outside the city, not really in the city.
I went with friends too on spring break of senior year.
Oh.
And my other thought with doing Nashville was you could fly or drive there.
Right.
So maybe some people that are coming to the bachelorette party, if they don't want to spend as much, maybe they could make the drive instead. It would be,
I think
it
the
would
flight
be like
is so
7
not worth
hours.
it. Like, my friends know I have a
Really?
very strong opinion about.
Well, you also are afraid of flying.
No. But that's not it. That's also not why. Because I've flown. What I'm saying is I hate the like getting off the plane and then like trying to figure out how to get to the airport to the hotel or the Airbnb. Like it's just extra time that I just like.
I guess when you do add it all up,
Yeah.
it's around the same amount of time because you want to be early to the airport, leave like an hour before you have to take
I guess
off.
that makes sense.
So it's like 7 hours versus I don't even know how
Is
long
this a
the
7-hour
flight
drive
is.
from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
when Mom and I drove, like it just didn't feel that long.
Yeah.
And I'm not
It'd be
saying
kind of fun too.
Like a road
I love
trip?
a road trip. Like
Yeah.
a little music.
it's easier
a
to
little-
pack to not have to
Yes,
deal with the
that's
airport.
the other thing is like the packing. Like you can just overpack and bring stupid bleep.
I don't disagree that there are distances that it is worth driving over flying. And I feel like that 6-7 hour range is kind of that in between. Is that worth the hours that you save?
I guess what's funny is like my friends and I drove to the Ozarks, which is like a 6.5 hour drive, like a 6 hour drive. They willingly did that, and then when I was like, okay, if we're going to Nashville, like let's drive, it's just easier. It's like no, like it's so far, like why would we do that? Like it's the same thing, like
Yeah, it is.
trying to explain it to but
I mean, Nashville's a bigger city, so people think like, oh, it's a bigger airport and it's easier to fly. And if time is your most precious commodity, then it might make sense to fly. Are most of the people you would invite in the Chicagoland area, or do you have people from other
Yeah.
places?
I mean, really, the only person I would invite that isn't in the Chicagoland area would be from Virginia.
So it's really not that far either for them, yeah.
Yeah.
that would be
exactly.
so.
Because that was part of my issue too with figuring out a bachelorette is my people were all over the place.
Yeah.
And so it didn't make sense to pick something necessarily super convenient for one. It was like, well, if we're all gonna fly, let's
Anyway.
just go to Disney World.
Yeah.
Which is what I did,
Oh my
which
God,
was
your bachelor
really
was so
fun.
so ridiculous.
Those like memories just came up on my Facebook.
Like it was so
It was
fun.
so fun.
It was good. It was a good time.
It's just such a good trip with like, I don't know, it just like made so much sense for us. Like we got to drink, but we also got to like play.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
well, and we did, and I think you've said that this is what you want to do, Lindsay. We did Airbnb, which
Yeah.
for me,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted that vibe of just being able to hang out. Like the first night, we just hung out and played games at the house, and on Sunday we just hung out at the
Hired a
pool.
hotel.
Yeah, we hired a bartender. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
That was
I did it.
Was that your idea or mom?
We're like all inside. He's like outside in the corner of the backyard.
And we're like, another sparkly drink, please.
Yeah. He's just like in the back and he's just like waiting for us. Like, I'm like, it's like pitch black where he is too. Like,
Well, the problem is the bar that was part of the house was outside.
Yeah.
yeah, it was just funny because he just stayed behind it and just waited on us.
As they should.
Yeah, that's what we hired him
Oh
for.
my god, that was so fun.
It was a good time.
It was a good mix of everything, and that's kind of what I want for my bachelorette party too. Like, I like going out. I'm not a huge like party person, so like I'll want probably like 1 or 2 nights of like going out and hitting the town. But I also just want to like hang out at the house, play games. Like if there's a pool, that'd be awesome. Maybe like a wine tour, like something like that would be really fun.
That's very you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I feel like I also knew, because I wasn't going to have a bridal shower, and I just knew this was the only time I was going to get to have all the like women in my life that I loved in one place, that I wanted it to be like extra special, and that's why I was like, we're going to Disney.
We had such a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Okay, so to end this episode, I thought it would be fun to go through the wedding trends that are in and out for 2024. I know when people are listening to this, it might be like...
No, this one will be out actually pretty quickly because it's like
Yeah.
the first one of the next session, so
Cool.
it'll be a couple weeks.
So I read through these and like expressed my opinions, like me and my friends have talked about it, but I think it would be fun to get different perspectives on it. So some of them are dumb, so I'm going to skip them. But,
And this is from what platform?
Vogue.
Okay.
Okay, so what's in ceremony Friday, party Saturday? Never heard of this.
What?
Why are they 2 different days?
No idea.
I actually also I'm sorry, I hate a Friday wedding. Like, you want me to both take the day and travel. I just feel like it is a lot.
I see why people do it.
I know.
Because it is so much cheaper.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was very tempted.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's like you're also gonna have a rehearsal dinner the
On
day
Thursday?
before, so like everyone that's involved in that, like they have to take extra time.
See, I like it for the aspect of I would rather be hungover on a Saturday than a Sunday.
I get that.
You say that like you're not going to take the Monday off of your own wedding off. Or you're saying as a guest.
It's like just enjoy. I mean, I like a Friday wedding, but I mean, I get it. I don't know.
Have you ever been to a Friday wedding as a guest? Yeah. Okay.
I've been to 2 this summer.
Yes, we have been to 1, and in the city we lived in, and so but we still had to take off Friday afternoon in order to get ready and get dressed, and then get to there by 5 or whatever time the ceremony was at. So,
but that specifically ceremony, separate day from
Yeah,
the
that
defeats what you just said, because then you're still hungover on Sunday.
Yeah.
So
and also
So no.
like
this
our
is,
ceremony is only gonna be like 30 minutes.
Yeah, right. Same. That's how long
Like,
ours
as
was.
quick
and
as
it's not
possible.
going to be. It'll be like 15
Yeah, which would be
or
totally
7.
fine.
I've had people.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, like literally, like if you're doing the basic stuff, it's going to take like 10 minutes. So, and I actually have advice on this because I think I love the idea of a short and sweet ceremony, but I would also consider like, you know, the ceremony is a pretty important part of the day.
Yes.
You know, and it's kind of like, oh,
It's
it
done.
was like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, just, you know, maybe like adding in like a little poem or reading or like something, or just doing like, you know,
Something
a little
extra.
something extra. Like we've had people, you know, do a unity item where, you know, it's the sand or it's the unity candle, or we've had people take shots. Like,
Oh my god.
you know,
Andrew
like
would throw up on the spot.
I would 100% do a shot.
Oh my god.
Okay.
You can have Andrew hit a golf ball. Wait, before
Oh
you
my
move
God.
on, hold on. I have to touch on the unity sand thing. Because, you know where I'm going with this? Oh. So, our mom and stepdad, when they got married in Hawaii, they did a unity sand thing as part of their ceremony in Hawaii that none of us were at, which we still don't let them, well, I personally don't let them live it down because I was 18 and could have very much enjoyed a trip to Hawaii. So we had a family reception in Florida a couple of months after they got married, and we did a family sand thing.
Oh.
Do you not Well, you're.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I know.
You
I
just
was
keep
there.
looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I just can't see.
Have you ever seen
My
this
glasses aren't on, so
thing?
I'm like this.
I don't think
You
so.
can see on the camera, I'm like squinting at her.
So we each picked a color. So all 8 of us have
was
a
the
different
ugliest.
color. It looks so ugly. I'm sorry. The concept of the Unity sand is very cool.
No one
It's
has,
cute.
no one, everyone's favorite colors are like orange, black, red,
Yeah.
pink.
And
Like,
when it's 2 colors, it's cute.
Yeah.
When it's 8, it's not cute. So all 8 of us poured into this thing.
we were all
Children.
wearing
Hawaiian stuff.
Stop
Yes.
it.
Wait,
You've
yes.
seen that
I
the
think I've seen
pictures.
these
Oh my
pictures.
god, they're so bad. Yeah, everybody's in like Hawaiian shirts and dresses with lays.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
An
bad.
experience.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
This is in wedding stylist. So essentially someone to help you curate the style and like design of your wedding.
Like just the clothing or the whole?
Like the clothing,
Thing.
the vibe, like everything. Like
I think if that's something you're not good at, I'm here for that being in.
Yeah.
digital guest book. So this has kind of been a thing, but you know, QR codes that people just kind of like
Yeah.
take pictures and it uploads to something.
I love
or,
that.
Or like the photo booth thing.
Well, we did the photo booth thing, and then the guest book was
Right.
next to the photo booth.
Yeah.
But we probably had like a third of the people actually do it.
We see a lot of audio guest books now. So it's like a little phone, and you literally leave a message for the couple, and then you send it back to the company's called After the Tone, and then you send it back to them, and then they compile it into like a little thing, so you can just listen.
cute.
To it.
That's cute.
Yeah, no, it's cute. What's difficult about it is you have to put it in like a very quiet area of the room. So sometimes
It's
people don't
hard.
see it, and we have to like set it up before it gets used, and it's kind of confusing. Like you just pick it up, and there's no like dial.
You just talk?
You just talk.
Oh,
So
that's
people are
awkward.
like, wait,
Yeah,
what are you
that's
saying?
awkward.
But
I just think I wish we had been a little bit more diligent about telling people to use the photo booth. That's all.
yeah,
I love a photo booth at a
I
wedding.
know, me too. It's like my favorite. That's my favorite. I don't think this is probably in the ins and outs. It's my favorite favor. Like I think wedding favors are overrated. Like
100%.
yeah.
Favors have been out.
yeah, favors have been out for a while. Being able to take home like a photo booth picture, I love that.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I'm like indifferent about photo booths because I like the idea of them, but I don't like the cheesiness of them. Like if I don't like all of the like props and
yeah.
stuff like that. But like
So I will say, I don't know if you remember this from our wedding. I think our photo booth did come with props like the company did, but I DIY'd custom props. So I just like printed out on cardstock and then glued on these little sticks.
yeah.
I did both of our sorority and our fraternity letters. I did our cat, Charlie.
Yeah,
I did a
that.
longhorn. I did the Chicago flag. I did I do like an apple for, I did something New York. I did something for Texas. Like I did
Yeah.
things related to the
cute.
guests. And so it was like photo booth props that were custom to us.
Mhm.
I love that.
I like
People
that.
are starting to do like they call it like a Kim K like photo booth. Like it's like black and white, like
Yeah.
super
Oh.
formal. And actually, this is something that someone just recently did, which is kind of interesting. They set up, instead of a photo booth, it was like a portrait booth. So like you and your family could like take a family portrait,
Oh, wow.
and it got sent to you, and that was like your favor. So you like basically got
A family photo.
a free family photo.
I think that's nice.
And it was like set up kind of cool. It wasn't like a photo booth. It was like
Right.
literally they had a photographer
photographer,
come there,
yeah.
and then they used our couch and our like plant and our white wall, and I mean,
Wow.
yeah,
You're all dressed up anyway.
yeah. Going on with photos, documentary style photography.
What does that even mean?
So that's like all of the photos that are like super like blurry and like candid, and I love it.
I like those, but
Like-
I don't want like a lot of them.
Here's
Yeah.
an example, like something,
Yeah, like that's
you
cute.
know. Okay, let's move to some outs.
Okay.
To kind of close this up. I think a big one is farewell brunches, like post-wedding brunches.
I very early on decided that was not something we wanted to do, partially because we already had so many people that were from out of town that we had to limit the rehearsal dinner guest list to begin with. You know, traditionally or customarily, your rehearsal dinner is anybody who is involved in the wedding or an out of town guest. That was our entire wedding. Almost everybody lived outside of the city of Austin. So we already had to come up with our own limit on the rehearsal dinner. So then it was like, okay, if we do a brunch, that's like just the same thing again.
Yeah,
and
it's so expensive.
It wasn't even about the cost though, to be honest. It was just planning. And then also, to be honest, I didn't want to have to show up and like be on the day after the wedding. I just wanted to chill and be hungover and be tired and be able to just like chill with my husband and not worry about it. And it ended up working out really nicely because all of our individual families, except for I think you guys, because you were just all a hungover mess who went to the airport, everybody else, all the other branches of my family did their own brunch. Like planned it and like reserved a restaurant. I literally think you guys are the only ones who did it.
We got breakfast tacos and yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, but it's funny because like my dad and stepmom and like their family and both my sets of in-laws did like with their families like a planned restaurant brunch.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like the
mom was like, no.
The difference then between like a wedding in Texas and here is like a rehearsal dinner and a post-wedding brunch in Chicago costs like so much
lot of money. Yeah.
So it's like putting that into perspective.
That's
like,
fair.
You know, so.
That's fair. I think I can understand cutting it for cost, but that's not ultimately why I cut it, is what I'm saying. Have you thought about that at all?
No, I feel like we probably won't do that, even though most of the guests that are like coming in from the suburbs, like I hope most of them
stay at the
hotel room.
Yeah.
But what they do the next day is not my problem.
Nope.
They'll probably just go back home.
I guess touching on like traditional cake cuttings and like dessert, because that's changed a lot. Like we don't see a large cake. I haven't seen one since I started working at Walden, which was a year ago. I have not seen a cake that's bigger than 2 tiers. And half of it's fake anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, we had a big cake. I'm putting that in quotes because it looked big.
Insert Laken and Sam's cake.
But it was fake.
It was crazy.
But it was shaped like the main building at our school. We both went to the University of Texas, and it was shaped like our school. And if you, again, ask me one of my top 3 moments, the private dinner was one, and the singing of the fight song when we cut the cake was another one.
I made a pun in my maid of honor speech about the cake. I said something about like, I'm really glad we're all here to capture all of these sweet moments, which is why I'm really excited for the cake or something. That's what I said at the beginning.
But the actual cake that we cut was mostly fake, and then we had a sheet cake, and we did serve cake as the dessert, but we had a full sheet cake in the back that was cut for serving.
And this is kind of advice for you, like people that like actually want to have cake, which
yeah, you could pick a different dessert.
Don't love cake, but anyways, not my wedding. It's like having like the little cutting cake for the moment, for the picture, like whatever. And then Costco sheet cake's just in the back, and we just slice them up, and people do not know the difference. Costco sheet cake is also incredible. So
with our caterer, we actually just tried these, but we want to do like brownies and bars. So like lemon bars, raspberry bars, blondies.
Dessert bites are huge. And like we actually see a lot of, we do a lot of interactive desserts too. So we have places like Dipsy, which is like literally like a little cart, and they like dip ice cream and like put toppings on it. And then
really cute.
Yeah, we have like Black Dog Gelato Bar, which is like a little gelato cart. And then you know, JoJo's Shake Bar can do like live hot chocolate, and like, so we do a lot of, and we have like a live donut thing that like literally just pops out donuts and then you like put toppings on it. Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
So many cool desserts.
Yeah,
so
I love me an interactive dessert.
Yeah, that's fun.
The only other one that I feel like we could kind of talk about is like matching bridesmaids dresses. Like those have kind of been out.
Yeah.
One of those outs that I was not here for. I don't know why it was important to me to have the bridesmaids dresses be the same. I just wanted them, I don't know. I have always, first off, in terms of color, which is why I wore this shirt, I've always wanted a red bridesmaid dress. That was always something that I wanted. Like I knew that was the color that I wanted. And I just felt like I would rather pick a style that everybody looked good in and have everybody be in the same one than have them be in different ones. I don't know.
I don't think I've seen a matching bridesmaid's dress since your wedding. They're just not, like, with the amount of companies like Birdie Gray, Azazi, all that, you just get a swatch and there's just a ton of different styles. And I think you had a dress that, yes, like looked good on everybody, but I think for some people, like there's a high neck, there's the one shoulder.
Yeah,
I
get it.
Different, like, I love the look of like completely different dresses, like completely different patterns and
I
colors
know. You're
and stuff.
over here with like flowers and sparkles and...
I think also if you have a lot of bridesmaids, that looks really good when they all have a different style.
Yeah.
I do think it depends on the number of bridesmaids.
Yeah.
Which, talk about a trend. I feel like having 8 million bridesmaids is an in right now. People have like 10, 12 bridesmaids. Yeah, when you have that many, like, having them in different dresses.
Like for hours just about like, not about like the number of people in the bridal party, but like the drama that comes with like being a part of a wedding. Like the amount of money that like you have to, like, it's just, you know.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it is, and it's a tough call to make. I remember trying to decide that.
It's all or nothing usually. It's kind of how you have to
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about this, Lindsay, or if you have an opinion. I very much wanted an even number because I felt like I could not handle pictures where, and I know they do them tastefully, but I could not have fathomed a picture where it was like 3 on one side and 2 on the other.
I feel the same.
And so I remember telling Sam, like, okay, I for sure want 4. Like, there's 4 people that I am for sure gonna ask. Then every even number after that is up to you. Like, you have to decide where you want to cut it off. And we could do 6, we could do 8, or we could do 4. But like, you have to pick that number.
I think like, you know, it's when it's more than like 8 is when I'm like, okay, let's calm down a little bit.
Do you have that? Unless you have a ton of siblings that you have to incorporate somehow.
Yeah.
It is really hard.
It is to know what's the cutoff.
Probably hard for Andrew too, because like,
So many brothers.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
is
feel like I'm gonna have enough people on my side though, where
right. He can include all his brothers.
Yeah.
For you guys, like I could totally, like I totally more like see, and like a ton. Something that people are doing more often too is like, even if like I'm not walking down the aisle, like I'm still, you know, you're still going to the bridal part or bachelorette party. You're still like gonna be there the morning of.
Well, that's what I did. I had more people at my bachelorette party than I did in my bridal party, and then I also did that with the processional. I had, because I have 8 siblings, and 7 of them are boys. I was not about to ask Sam to have all 7 of my brothers in his bridal party, and originally he wasn't even going to include Parker. And then he made that decision on his own to invite Parker. And I wanted to do something special for my other siblings that weren't in the bridal party. And so I had them as part of the processional where they walked in special ahead of everybody.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so there's other ways, I think, ultimately to incorporate people that you care about in a wedding, even if they're not in the bridal party.
Yeah.
And people were like, are okay with that. They're not, I don't know. I guess I would not be upset, but I can feel like other people might be like offended or upset.
Yeah. Well, if you guys need any advice, just let me know.
You guys,
meaning
the listeners?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I'm married, and you're already helping Lindsay.
She's already helped.
So,
no, I just mean like in general.
Wedding stuff.
Who knows? Maybe you'll see me somewhere, sometime soon.
This episode is about Lindsay, not about your new business.
Well,
We'll plug it.
No.
And this episode will go live, and then we'll share snippets. We'll just have to have like a circle back after your wedding.
Yes.
With like a
definitely.
post-wedding lowdown.
Yeah, that's
Love
a good
it.
idea.
I love it. Okay. I feel like this episode's probably long enough. Thank you for being here, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Thank you for chatting about this topic.
So